If you want to know the single most important factor in whether someone will develop cancer, forget genetics, forget family history. What matters is something happening in your body right now at this very moment. Microscopic cancers are forming inside you, not might be forming, are forming. Everyone watching this has them. But here's what most people don't understand. Whether those microscopic cancers ever become dangerous depends entirely on three things your body controls: your immune system's ability to find and destroy them, your blood vessel system's decision whether to feed them, and your body's inflammatory state that either smothers them or fans the flames. Hi, I'm Dr. Becker. I'm an emergency medicine physician and cancer researcher. After nearly 30 years studying how the body fights disease, I've seen what happens when these natural defense mechanisms fail. People develop cancers that could have been stopped. But I've also seen something remarkable. Specific foods in exact amounts can activate these defense systems even in people over 60, even in people who've already been diagnosed. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 foods that clinical studies have proven fight cancer at the cellular level. We'll explore how each one works through multiple pathways to starve tumors, boost immunity, and repair damaged tissue. Most importantly, I'll give you the exact amounts that researchers used in human studies, not speculation, actual doses that worked in real people. Quick favor, I see messages from people who've watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Could you double check right now? It's free, takes 2 seconds, and helps this channel reach more people who desperately need this information. Now, here's the thing most people don't know. At any given moment, you have thousands of microscopic cancers in your body. This isn't speculation. This is established science. When researchers do autopsies on people who died from accidents, people with no cancer diagnosis, no symptoms, they find microscopic clusters of cancer cells. 40% of women in their 40s have microscopic breast cancer. 50% of men in their 50s have microscopic prostate cancer. 70% of people in their 70s have microscopic thyroid cancer. But these never become clinical cancer. Why? Because your body has 3 defense systems keeping them in check. The first is your immune system. You have specialized cells called natural killer cells, TEC cells, macrophages. They patrol your body 24 hours a day looking for abnormal cells. When they find a microscopic cancer, they eliminate it. This happens thousands of times throughout your life without you ever knowing. Think of it like security guards in a building. They're constantly checking every room, every floor. The moment they spot an intruder, they remove them. Your immune system is doing this constantly. The second defense is inflammation control. Now, inflammation is actually a good thing when you cut your finger. It's your immune system rushing to the scene to prevent infection and heal the wound. But chronic inflammation is different. It's like having a small fire burning in your body all the time. That fire releases chemicals that tell cells to grow faster, divide more rapidly, ignore normal stop signals. Microscopic cancers love inflammation. It's like pouring gasoline on a campfire. If you can control inflammation, keep it low. Those microscopic cancers stay dormant. They can't grow. But if inflammation runs wild, those cancers get the signal to expand. This is why people with chronic inflammatory diseases have higher cancer rates. It's not the disease itself causing cancer. It's the inflammatory environment giving cancers permission to grow. The third defense, and this is the one most people have never heard about, is called angiogenesis. Every cell in your body needs oxygen and nutrients delivered by blood vessels. Your organs are laced with tiny blood vessels, bringing everything cells need to survive. But here's what's fascinating. Microscopic cancers, those tiny clusters of abnormal cells, they can't get blood vessels on their own. They're too small. A cancer can't grow larger than about 2 mm, the size of a ballpoint pen tip, without blood vessels. It hits a size limit and stops. It's harmless at that size. But if that cancer can trick your body into growing blood vessels toward it, everything changes. Once blood vessels reach that tumor and start feeding it oxygen and nutrients, it can grow 16,000 times larger in just 2 weeks. 16,000 times. That's the difference between a harmless speck and a deadly tumor. The process of growing new blood vessels is called angiogenesis. It's normal and healthy for healing wounds. But when cancers hijack this process, that's when they become dangerous. Your body has the power to say no to that cancer's request for blood vessels. When your anti-androgenic defense is strong, those blood vessels never grow. The cancer stays microscopic and harmless forever. When the defense is weak, blood vessels grow, the cancer explodes in size, and that's when people get diagnosed. So, how do foods activate these 3 defenses? Let me break down the science, and I'll give you exact amounts and preparations. The first food is green tea, and I want to explain why this is so powerful. Green tea contains compounds called catechins, specifically one called EGCG. That stands for epiglycocatechin gallate. You don't need to remember the name, but you need to understand what it does. I've studied this compound in the laboratory for years. It's a natural chemical found in tea leaves. When you brew a cup of tea, the EGCG dissolves into the water. Whether you use tea bags, loose leaves, or matcha powder, you're getting this compound. Now, what does EGCG do in your body? 3 critical things. First, it lowers inflammation dramatically. Researchers at the University of California measured inflammatory markers in people before and after drinking green tea for 8 weeks. They found reductions in C-reactive protein interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, all major inflammatory markers by 30 to 50%. That's pharmaceutical level reduction from a beverage. Second, EGCG boosts your immune system, specifically natural killer cell activity. A study at Brigham Young University gave older adults 3 cups of green tea daily for 3 months. At the end, they measured natural killer cell function. It had increased by 47%. These cells were nearly 50% better at hunting down and destroying abnormal cells, including cancer cells. Third, and this is the mechanism I find most remarkable, EGCG cuts off the blood supply to tumors. It's anti-angiogenic. In laboratory studies, when you expose tumors to EGCG, they can't recruit blood vessels. They stay small. In animal studies, tumors in mice given green tea extract grew 60% slower than tumors in mice given plain water. But the human studies are what matter. Researchers in Japan tracked over 8,000 people for 10 years. They compared people who drank 5 or more cups of green tea daily to people who drank less than 1 cup. The heavy tea drinkers had 40% lower rates of colon cancer, 30% lower rates of stomach cancer, and 50% lower rates of esophageal cancer. Why? Especially digestive cancers. Because when you sip green tea, it flows through your entire digestive tract from your mouth to your esophagus down into your stomach, through your intestines. Every surface it touches gets exposed to those kakans. It's like painting a protective coating on your digestive system. Now, how do you prepare green tea correctly? This matters because most people do it wrong. Never pour boiling water directly on tea leaves or tea bags. That scalding water actually damages the kakans you're trying to extract. And worse, drinking liquid that hot has been shown to increase esophageal cancer risk because it injures the delicate tissue. Here's the right way. Heat water until it's hot but not boiling. About 107 degree F. If you don't have a thermometer, bring water to a boil, then let it sit for 3 minutes. Pour that water over your tea and let it steep for 5 minutes. This does 2 things. It gives the kakans time to dissolve into the water, and it lets the temperature drop to a safe drinking level. If you're using tea bags, dunk them repeatedly during those 5 minutes. You're physically shaking the kakans out of the leaves. The dose that matters based on multiple studies is 2 to 3 cups daily. Not occasionally, daily. If you want maximum effect, consider matcha powder. Matcha is ground whole tea leaves. When you drink matcha, you're consuming the entire leaf, not just what dissolves in water. 1 cup of matcha delivers the kakin content of about 10 cups of regular green tea. The effective dose is 1 teaspoon of matcha powder whisked into hot water once daily. The second food is broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables. This family includes cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, bok choy. What makes these vegetables special is a group of compounds called sulforaphane. These are sulfur-containing molecules that give cruciferous vegetables that distinctive smell when you cook them. Some people don't like that smell, but those sulfur compounds are medicine. Sulforaphane does 3 things in your body. First, it activates your immune system. Studies show it increases the production and activity of natural killer cells and T cells. Second, it's powerfully anti-inflammatory. It works by activating a genetic pathway called NRF2 that turns on your body's own antioxidant production. Think of it like this. Instead of taking antioxidants from outside, sulforaphane tells your cells to make their own antioxidants, which are far more powerful. Third, sulforaphane is anti-angiogenic. It prevents tumors from recruiting blood vessels. But here's something most people don't know about broccoli. The part we usually eat, those tree-like feuettes, they contain sulforaphane. But the stalk contains twice as much. Most people throw the stalk away or leave it on their plate. That's a mistake. The stalk is where the concentrated medicine is. If you find the texture tough, there are ways around it. Slice the stalk on a diagonal and saute it with garlic and olive oil. The diagonal cut creates more surface area. It cooks faster and becomes tender. Or chop the stalk and blend it into soup. A broccoli soup made with the stalks, some onions, garlic, vegetable broth, and a pinch of oregano is absolutely delicious and loaded with sulforaphane. I have that recipe in my materials if you want it. The effective dose from studies is about 1 cup of chopped broccoli daily, including the stalk. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Broccoli sprouts. These are 3-day-old broccoli plants grown from seeds. They look like alfalfa sprouts. Thin white stems with little green leaves. These sprouts contain 100 times more sulforaphane than mature broccoli. 100 times. Why? Because the plant is born with all the sulforaphane it will ever have. But as it grows into a large plant, that sulforaphane gets distributed throughout the whole structure. The sprout is concentrated medicine. A study at Johns Hopkins University gave people with high cancer risk 2 ounces of broccoli sprouts daily. That's about half a cup. After 3 months, they measured cancer biomarkers in blood and urine. Those markers had dropped by 60%. The researchers also found that the sprouts upregulated over 200 cancer-fighting genes. 200 genes turned on by eating sprouts. You can buy broccoli sprouts at health food stores or grow them at home. You just need broccoli sprouting seeds, a mason jar, and 3 days. Put 2 tablespoons of seeds in a jar, cover with water overnight, then drain and rinse them twice daily. By day 3 you have sprouts. It costs almost nothing and gives you pharmaceutical-grade cancer protection. The third food is papaya. And this one surprises people because most don't think of tropical fruits as medicine. Papaya is an oblong football-sized fruit. When ripe, you cut it in half, scoop out the black seeds, and the flesh is bright orange, soft and sweet. That orange color comes from carotenoids, specifically beta-cryptanthin. This compound is anti-inflammatory and anti-angiogenic, but it has a specific effect on lung tissue. Multiple studies have shown that people who consume high amounts of beta-cryptanthin have dramatically lower lung cancer rates. A study from Harvard followed over 70,000 women for 18 years. They tracked their diet and cancer incidence. Women in the highest intake group for beta-cryptanthin had 31% lower lung cancer risk than women in the lowest group. This was true even in women who had smoked earlier in life. The protective effect was independent of smoking status. How does it work? Beta-cryptanthin concentrates in lung tissue. When you eat papaya, the carotenoids get absorbed, enter your bloodstream, and preferentially accumulate in your lungs. There they reduce inflammation and prevent the blood vessel growth that tumors need. The effective dose from studies is about 1 cup of fresh papaya daily or 1 and 1 cup 2 cups of frozen papaya chunks. Now a word about fruit sugar. Some people avoid fruit because they've heard sugar feeds cancer. This is a dangerous oversimplification. Yes, cancer cells use glucose for energy, but so do all your cells. Your brain runs on glucose, your muscles use glucose. The issue isn't glucose itself. It's excess insulin from eating too much sugar and refined carbohydrates. Fruit contains sugar, but it's packaged with fiber, vitamins, antioxidants, and in papaya's case, powerful anti-cancer compounds. The fiber in whole fruit slows sugar absorption. You don't get the insulin spike you'd get from fruit juice or processed sugar. Studies comparing people who eat whole fruit daily to people who avoid fruit show that fruit eaters have lower cancer rates across the board. So eat the papaya, eat the berries, eat whole fruit. Avoid fruit juice, which has been stripped of fiber and concentrated into liquid sugar. But whole fruit is protective. If you're concerned about blood sugar, eat fruit earlier in the day when your insulin sensitivity is highest and pair it with a small amount of protein or fat to further slow absorption. The fourth food is purple potatoes. And if you've never seen these, you're in for a visual treat. Purple potatoes look interesting from the outside, a purplish skin, but when you cut them open, the flesh is deep purple, almost violet. That color comes from anthocyanins, the same compounds that make blueberries blue and red cabbage red. These are powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. Purple potatoes have been specifically studied for their anti-cancer effects, and the results are remarkable. Researchers at Penn State gave laboratory animals purple potato extract. Tumors in these animals grew 65% slower than in animals given regular white potato extract. When they analyzed what was happening, they found that anthocyanins were doing 2 things. They were cutting off blood supply to tumors, classic anti-angiogenic effect, and they were killing cancer stem cells. Let me explain cancer stem cells because this is critical. When someone gets treated for cancer surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, the goal is to remove or kill all the cancer cells. Often the tumor shrinks or disappears completely. The person is declared cancer-free, but sometimes years later the cancer comes back. How? Cancer stem cells. These are a small population of cells within a tumor that can regenerate the entire tumor. They're like the seeds of a dandelion. You can mow down the dandelion, cut off all the visible growth, but if the roots and seeds remain, it grows back. Cancer stem cells are those roots. Most chemotherapy kills the bulk of cancer cells but doesn't kill the stem cells. Purple potatoes, specifically the anthocyanins in them, have been shown to kill cancer stem cells in colon cancer. A study at Ohio State University exposed colon cancer stem cells to purple potato extract. The extract killed the stem cells while leaving normal colon cells unharmed. This is selective toxicity. It's what we want from cancer treatment. Kill the cancer. Spare the healthy t-shirt. How do you prepare purple potatoes? Any way you'd cook regular potatoes. Bake them, steam them, roast them, saute them. I particularly like making a purple potato soup. Dice the potatoes, saute with onions and garlic, add vegetable broth, simmer until soft, then blend. The color is stunning, deep purple, and it's loaded with anthocyanins. Here's a pro tip. After you cook potatoes, let them cool completely, then refrigerate them. This creates something called resistant starch. The starch molecules rearrange when they cool and become resistant to digestion. This means two things. They cause a smaller blood sugar spike when you eat them, and they feed your beneficial gut bacteria. Your gut bacteria ferment resistant starch and produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation throughout your body. So, cooked and cooled purple potatoes give you anti-cancer anthocyanins plus resistant starch that feeds healthy gut bacteria that reduce inflammation that prevents cancer. It's a cascade of benefits. The effective dose is about 1 medium purple potato daily or 1 cup of diced purple potatoes several times per week. The fifth food is pomegranate, and this fruit has been used medically for thousands of years. Pomegranates are about the size of a large apple with thick leathery skin and a crown at the top. When you cut one open, it's filled with hundreds of seeds, each surrounded by a little sac of deep red juice. Those seeds look like rubies. The flavor is sweet, tart, distinctive, delicious. Pomegranates contain a class of compounds called elagitanins. These are large, complex molecules that give pomegranate its color and tartness. When you eat pomegranate or drink the juice, the elagitanins travel down into your colon, where your gut bacteria break them down into smaller compounds called urolithins. These urolithins are what actually provide the health benefits. Elagitanins and urolithins do several things. First, they're powerfully anti-angiogenic. They prevent tumors from growing blood vessels. A study at UCLA gave pomegranate juice to men with prostate cancer who had been treated but whose PSA levels were rising. PSA is a blood marker that indicates cancer activity. Rising PSA after treatment usually means the cancer is coming back. These men drank 8 ounces of pomegranate juice daily. The researchers tracked their PSA doubling time, how long it took for PSA to double, which indicates how fast the cancer is growing. Before pomegranate juice, the average doubling time was 15 months. After starting pomegranate juice, it extended to 54 months. The cancer was still there, but its growth had slowed dramatically. Some men stayed on pomegranate juice for years with stable PSA levels, avoiding the need for more aggressive treatment. The researchers believe the anti-angiogenic effects of elagitanins starve the microscopic cancer cells, preventing them from expanding. Second, elagitanins feed a specific gut bacteria called Akmansia mucosinilia. This is one of the most important bacteria in your gut for cancer prevention. Akmansia lives in the mucous layer of your intestines. When you consume elagitanins from pomegranate, they travel to your colon and stimulate your gut to produce more mucus. More mucus means more habitat for Akmansia to grow. Why does this matter? Akmansia talks to your immune system through the gut wall. It sends signals that activate your cancer-fighting immune cells. Studies in cancer patients receiving immunotherapy, treatments that unleash the immune system against cancer, have found that patients who respond well, whose immune systems successfully attack the cancer, all have high levels of Akmansia. Patients who don't respond lack this bacteria.